This episode is dedicated to Adenike Adepoju, also known as Glory Jean Montgomery, but best known to me as my Auntie Doe Doe. Happy heavenly birthday, Auntie. Thank you for being my guardian angel. Thank you for being my biggest champion. I own this business in honor of you because you were always on me to start my own business. I've hustled for a lot of folks and a lot of companies, but you were one to always say, why don't you just do your own thing? Why don't you just open your own business? And so, Auntie, here I am. I have my own business. I have my own passions that I can funnel through my business. And so I know you're looking down on me. You were always my biggest investor in anything that I was tackling. You're the reason I'm on the financial path that I'm on now because you gave me an amazing foundation. And so I honor you. I celebrate you. I tell you happy heavenly birthday. And I look forward for the time that I can hug you in my arms again. I love you. You're listening to God Can I Hold a Dollar, the podcast brought to you from Reset Budgeting and Financial Coaching with Janine Victor McDade, owner and principal consultant. The podcast that bridges real world conversations, no shame, no shade, and the word of Christ all in one. Hello, Resetters. I hope y'all are having an amazing, amazing day. Coming back to you this week with another episode. This time we're digging in. Last week, if you heard last week's episode, I talked about Dave Ramsey, how he was really influential in the beginning of my journey, my own journey. There weren't a lot of influencers. He wasn't even called out an influencer. Like that was not a word that we even used back then. But there weren't a lot of people, and definitely not a ton of people of color. Lynette Calfani Cox was definitely one that I looked at as well. But the two heavy hitters, I would say, were Dave Ramsey and Susie Orman. But now we're looking at, I started this journey early 2000s. What are we looking at? Maybe a little less than 24, 25 years later. A lot of bumping my head, a lot of research and trial and error and FOMO and doing it anyway, paying the cost later, finally getting it. A lot of trial and error later, I came across this Budgets Made Easy site. And there was a blog post that the author of this site did of 20 of the best Dave Ramsey tips that will make over your money today. And it got me thinking about my early days of struggling with money, trying to make $1 out of 15 cents, and then spending 14 and a half of it and not really realizing I needed to tuck some things away. Because, sometimes we think we're going to live forever and youth is going to stay with us forever. And I started thinking about today, after all of the experience, after the awakening that I had, after being able to realize some great wins in my life in regards to finances, and then sharing that experience and the journey, with others in their journeys. I was curious to take a look at some of that advice over the years that Dave had given. And do I really resonate with it today? So that's going to be the focus of the next 3 parts of this particular series. So if you didn't listen to Baby Steps, which is his foundation, I'm very much still in alignment with his baby steps. So definitely check out that episode and like and subscribe. Y'all know, like and subscribe to your girl. But we're going to talk about the next sets here, and we'll do it in 3 episodes. So what I will take away from Dave Ramsey's advice overall is it is about behavior. Everything, if you think about how you do something, normally comes down to behavior. If we want to lose weight, there's some behaviors we have to stop doing. If we want to start saving more and stop spending more, there's some behaviors we're going to address. So that is no surprise. But, that is easier said than done, right? Behavior change is one of the hardest things that you have to do because in our behaviors, even when they're dysfunctional, they serve us in some kind of way. So I had to also have a reckoning with that. Janine, what does being broke do to serve you? For some people, that'd be a absurd and crazy question. Like, how is being broke serving you? But what I realized is that it wasn't so much of I want to be broke, but it was extending myself to feel like I was going to miss something or to feel like I couldn't do something and having to really reconcile with that thought process. So that's one of the big reasons that the work that I do with my clients and with those that I've worked with is that we address the mindset first. The beautiful thing is that we have the word of God to be able to do that. Back then, I wasn't as much in my word, but I really realized like I can't keep behaving and doing the same things I'm doing, being able to start again and start again and start again. I know my company is called Reset, but being able to do that over and over and over and over again when it comes to your money. Now, with Jesus, by all means, Jesus is the king of the reset. But when it comes to your money, there's time that gets wasted. We cannot recoup time. You can make more money, but you cannot make more time. And sometimes there is a consequence and a loss to pay when we do not behave in the right way or take the right action. We lose time. And when it comes to like being able to put your money in investments or being able to have your money serve you, time is your biggest commodity. And that's why you might see a lot of influencers, channels, or sites or what have you, giving a lot of advice to people in their 40s, 50s, and 60s, trying to actually survive. I was going to say do well, but no, at this point, to survive in retirement because your money doesn't have a lot of time to grow. But something is absolutely always better than nothing. So this takes me right on in to the first set of Dave Ramsey tips that was given here. So the first one is making a written zero-based budget. I am still 110% in favor of this particular piece of advice. It is stated that this is the first and most important step to any financial plan. Why is it that you should make a written zero-based budget? And written can be on paper, it can be in a notebook, it can be on a spreadsheet. It is something where you are taking the things in your head that you know you have to pay for and that you're responsible for, and you are actually putting them down on some type of document and you are accounting for them. My saying is if it's not written down, it doesn't count. That's my saying in business, at work, and definitely in this in this financial budgeting game. If it's not written down, it doesn't count because you cannot track what you do not have written down. And so, yes, I'm 100% in favor because a zero-based budget allows you to take a look at all the money that comes through your hands down to the penny and allocate it somewhere. Is it going to pay for your wants, pay for your needs, pay for your future, pay for your now, invest and expound for your future? Is it going to satisfy your spontaneous needs? Those are all the things that you can actually control and do and allocate in a written zero-based budget. So, Dave, you and I were on the same page, right? You budget every single dollar. As he says, it takes a little bit more time, but it is so worth the effort because you'll never think about what happened to that 20. All right, the next piece of advice is use cash. I am a believer now. Now, back in the day, number two, use cash. I was so against it, but not actively and intentionally. I was very much about the convenience of the debit card. And you all know what I'm talking about. The convenience of the debit card. Now you got the Apple Pay and you got all the things that we can use that does not require us to pull money, paper out of our wallets or purses. But what I'm going to tell you in using cash, there's something about knowing you have a finite amount of money at your disposal in your hand that will make you think about the things that you are purchasing differently versus you're just going to swipe or ding or hover or whatever the case may be at the checkout line. So, and let me be clear, it is absolutely not necessary to use cash for everything. Once again, in alignment with Dave on that. I'm a converted cash user, especially now, y'all. So, I'm recording this with you all on Tuesday night. And I don't know if you all have heard, but Patelco, which if you are not in California, Patelco is a credit union and it evolved from the Pacific Telesis, I think I'm saying that right, Pacific Telesis old school Pacific Bell business, the phone company, basically, Pac Bell. I used to work at AT&T as well for very many years. And so I became a Patelco member a long time ago and used Patelco as my credit union of choice. And so unfortunately, y'all, Patelco has gotten hit really hard with a ransomware attack. So let me tell you, as we speak, I can't go in my app and I can't check my balance. I have no idea what's going on in my checking account right now. Like, I want to make sure everything that's on auto pay is okay. But with a ransomware attack, they have limited and disconnected and brought down a lot of stuff. So I have been calling my creditors and people that I know, are putting in, their auto pay for bills that I owe this month. I'm giving them a heads up because I don't know if the things are going to go through. I don't know if they're going to get turned around. I don't know if they're accepting them or not. They're kind of giving us a little bit of information bit by bit, but it's bad. It's bad where you cannot call on the phone, you can't talk to a person, you can't check your balance by phone, you can't check it by mobile device, you can't go on the website. You can now go to the ATM and do a deposit or withdraw some cash, but that was shut down a couple of days ago too. So the saving grace is that I have access to liquid cash that is not connected to that particular bank. That is kind of the saving grace of, like, if anything pops off and goes down and I can't use this debit card, I have a ram in the bush, y'all. And so it's something to think about because I in a million years, I really would never have thought that Patelco would be susceptible. But I say it all the time, man. Criminals are the most ingenious people. Man, I mean, if they could only use their skills for good instead of their skills for evil, we'd have some amazing we'd have some amazing things going on. But, I'm going to leave it up to God, leave it up to Patelco and the third parties and the cybersecurity experts and the law enforcement, all the people that they've got involved in this to hopefully not have this go on for long, extended periods of time. But it is crazy. So that's another reason about using cash, making sure that you have cash accessible for the things that you would pay or can pay out of pocket. What does that look like? For most of us, it's our variable expenses. Variable expenses I talked about could be your groceries. That could fluctuate from week to week or month to month. Your gas, that can fluctuate. You control how much gas you're going to use. Are you going to drive your car every day? Are you going to take public transportation? Are you going to take ride share some days? Because gas is getting out of hand. But the price of gas, but that is something that you can control as well. You can go in and pay for your gas in the actual, little store or whatever, little kiosk at the gas station. You can pay cash at the register in the grocery store. You can keep some miscellaneous money on you. You can pay cash if you go to the doctor and you have a copay. Any opportunity that you see a bill or something that you're responsible for, something that you may pay for, and you can do a face-to-face transaction, you want to use cash. Dave Ramsey's suggestion for using cash states that, based on this website here, that using cash saves you an average of 15 to 20% just at the store. And that's just because psychologically, when you know you have a few bills in there, you're going to really look at what you're buying and be like, is that worth it? Because I know that this is going to take this much away from me. I'm only going to have this left. or this is going to be all the money I'm going to spend. Is what I'm spending quality? Or am I just putting stuff in a basket? Your decision making changes. And so that's why I'm a huge proponent of cash based budgeting. It's the cash envelope method, but it has gotten very sophisticated, very, very chic and bougie and and what have you, all the things I love. Where you can zhuzh up your envelope, you can go to Etsy, you can buy inserts and have them customized for you as I have done. And it doesn't have to feel like I'm only, I only can spend this much. You're in absolute control of however much money you want to put in each of your categories. You get to decide that. It's up to you. So, Dave, number two, use cash. We're still in alignment, sir. Oh, and let me not mention this one point. You got to notice next time that you go to the gas station, take a look on those prices on those boards there. Sometimes there is a cash price and sometimes there's a debit credit card price. Be careful to take a look and decipher the two. If you have a gas station and it'll say cash price and then credit card price, just credit, then usually the gas station will extend to you the cash price if you're using your debit card. But more and more stations I'm starting to notice will have a cash price, which will be usually about 10 cents less on the gallon. And then they'll have a debit credit price, which is usually 10 cents more. Why is that? Because every time that you utilize swiping your card, utilizing your card, so on and so forth, that merchant has to pay for the transaction to be able to use the technology for you to pay in that way. So what do? They want to try to recoup their money back of the fees that they're going to pay. And guess what? You get to pay them back per gallon. So paying cash at the gas station actually could save you a good amount of little change, depending upon what kind of car or vehicle or truck or whatever that you are trying to fill up. All right, number three. The best piece of advice that Dave Ramsey has given over the years is number three, take care of the four walls first. Very much still in alignment here. What Dave is saying is that when you're creating your budget, you prioritize your head, right? You prioritize your four walls, the most important things you need to survive and get to work. All right. These come before anything else. It is your food, it is your shelter, right? Your rent, your mortgage, your utilities, your taxes, it is your transportation, and it is your clothing. These are the things that come first when you are creating your budget. Because if you are hungry, you are not effective. If you do not have a place to stay, you are not effective and you are not stable. If you don't have a way to get around or to get to work, that can also be a challenge and that eats up your time. Once again, time we cannot get back. So we want to use our time as efficiently as possible. And of course, clothing. Depending upon where you work, or period, you want to, take care of your appearance. You may need to dress a certain way for your job. Those are the four most important things. There's a couple more I could probably add on there, but we're going to keep things simple. This is priority, right? Make sure where you lay your head is protected. And it talks about if you're behind on your bills, you catch up on these things first. These items come before any debt payments. If you need to pay your garbage bill, like any of those things, those are the things you catch up on first before you start paying back credit cards and what have you. Make sure your home is taken care of. The other thing that he states for this particular one, just a little side note, is to make your budget and then catch up on your full walls before moving on to the baby steps. So even the baby steps that you would normally do prior to starting a budgeting and a payoff plan, you take care of these things first. Once again, your four walls come first. Make sure that your head is protected, your body is protected, your transportation is protected, and your belly is protected. All right, number four. I love this one. Number four is live like no one else so later you can live like no one else. Well, like I said, me and Dave Ramsey, after all theyese years, lockstep. Now, I don't agree with everything that Dave Ramsey subscribes to, but when it comes to money, he has some really, really good nuggets. I absolutely agree. Live like no one else so later you can live like no one else. Now, what I say about reset budgeting and financial coaching is that there is a way that you can still be fabulous, that you can still enjoy life, and you can still budget, and you can still pay off debt. There's an opportunity in a way that you can do those things, right? It is a strategy and but it also takes some sacrifice. And so, what Dave is saying in this one is that there are some things that you're going to have to do that are going to be hard at first. All right. They are going to be the things that are going to incite FOMO in you because you're going to maybe possibly have the fear of missing out, or you're not going to be able to go to that concert with your girlfriends. You may not be able to buy that new dress or what have you because you are trying to take care of business. But you can live like no one else for a little bit of time. You can sacrifice for a defined amount of time so that you can have the things that sometimes people who have not sacrificed don't get to enjoy later. And so, these days, if you stay too long on Instagram, you're going to start questioning your own life. Well, why is my house not that big? And man, I wish I had a kitchen like that. I'm telling you my thoughts, y'all. Like, oh, I wish I had that kitchen. Or, oh man, they're on vacation again. I would love to go and such and such and such. It will make you envy and not be appreciative and grateful for the things that God has blessed you with in the now, what you currently have. And so I practice gratitude every morning. Thank you, Lord, for remembering to touch me and my family this morning. Thank you, God, for this home that I have. Would I like to rearrange and do some things and make some things different? Absolutely. But thank you, God, for these four walls. Thank you, Lord, for this bed and this floor and this working plumbing. Thank you for everything that works and protects me today. All right. So I would implore you to know that when you start your payoff journey, when you start paying down debt, and when you start dedicating your time to really funding the future you deserve, it's going to be a little bit tough. You're going to have to say no to some things that you absolutely don't want to say no to. All right. And like I said, this is not normal by today's standards. Everything is a yes. Everything is boss this. Everything is I'm buying this. Everything is, I got this going on. The internet, y'all, can be fantasy and it can be reality. And we got to know when to tell the difference. But when you make the sacrifices now, your later self will thank you. So basically, he is saying sacrifice what you want now so you can have it later without all the debt and the stress. All right, Dave, I got you. All right, number five. Number five with Dave Ramsey, he says you don't need a credit score or what he calls it, debt score. So I'm super glad that the author from the budgetsmadeeasy.com site agrees with me because I don't necessarily agree with this particular piece of advice. I remember Dave touting about it way back in the day. This piece of advice at this point in time, I would say is outdated, and she agrees, right? I do not agree with not needing a credit score because in this day and age, especially with the enhancements of technology and what have you absolutely need to be able to show what your borrowing and your spending behaviors are, that you are trustworthy, that you do pay your bills, that you pay back what you borrow, that you are consistent, that you don't overborrow. All of those things are tied into your credit score. And by saying I don't need a credit score, some of Dave's early advice was, save for everything that you want. And that's great. If you can save to get a car and get a decent car, he also talks about like not buying a new car because they automatically depreciate when they come off of the lot. Totally in alignment with that. I still have never owned a new car, and I'm in my 40s. I could not bring myself to buy one. That is just ingrained in me now. One day though, I would love to be able to walk into a dealership and buy a new car, a car that nobody's booty has sat in the seat and created their own groove in. I would love to buy a car that really only I have owned. I think I'll get there one day, but, my very frugal and strategic and financially conscious mind these days is like, I can't even I can't even buy this car, like, this is just too much, where this car right here with this good 13,000 miles is just as new. But that is some of his advice, right? Save for everything. Well, I live in California, y'all. I don't know anyone who, for California home prices, has six, seven, or $800,000 to that they've saved, like nickel, dime, dollar saved in their accounts to just drop on a mortgage, right? Drop on on a condo or what have you. There's nobody I know that has that ability to the normal average person. So that's where credit comes in. And your credit score, like I tell my babies, my children, the youth that I talk to about money, your credit score is just an extension of when you get a report card in school. Your report card in school says these are the things that I taught you and here's how you grasp them. Grasp this content, you excelled or you struggled a little bit or you absolutely didn't grasp it at all and that's where you see a D or an F or you didn't even try, right? You didn't turn in your homework. It is the same thing. I told them this is your adult report card. The only thing is now they want to see how you spend money. They're not looking to see how you learn. They're looking to see how you spend, right? And how you exercise credit worthiness and when people lend you something. And it's important. It's important. So this one I do not agree with. You absolutely need a credit score. You absolutely need to know the ins and outs of how credit works so that you are not locked into high interest rates and minimum payments on your principal balances. But in order to get a mortgage, in order to even get a car sometimes, you got to have a credit score because no credit score is just as bad as a bad credit score. And sometimes it's going to come down to where your credit score may be looked at if you're looking for a job or insurance because they want to make sure that they are working with someone who is responsible. At the end of the day, your credit score says, how responsible are you with money? And if you are coming to me because you want some of mine, then I need to see a credit score that shows me that you pay people back, that you pay people on time, and that you don't overborrow because when you overborrow and you extend yourself, there's a risk that you're not going to be able to pay me because you're trying to pay everybody else. Okay? So, generally speaking, I don't agree with you don't need a credit score. Great if you can drop, 15, 20, $30,000 in savings. That definitely has been done on a car or what have you, but just in my region geographically, you need a credit score. You need a credit score if you're going to purchase a home or property or, start a business usually. There's something that needs to be there personally. All right. Last but not least, number 6. This is that save $1,000 before paying off debt. We talked a little bit about this in baby steps. I will just cover this very quickly. That 1,000 is the very first step in the Dave Ramsey payoff plan. You, once again, want to make sure that your 4 walls are taken care of. But I would say in my coaching to budget some money if you got to catch up on anything, rent, mortgage, taxes, like budget your money, most of your money to do that and put a little bit aside. Budget most of your money to catch up on your 4 walls if needed and put a little bit aside. Because, like I said, when you start embarking on doing something better, you're going to get adversity. Something's going to break that never broke before. Something's going to need to be paid out that didn't have to be paid out yesterday, right before the day that you said you were going to embark on this journey to pay off debt. Things are going to come up. And the most important thing to keep you motivated is to be able to have some cash on hand to take care of those things. Because generally things that crop up, they're the annoying things. They're not the $10,000, $20,000 things. They're the $500, $600, $700 things. Oh man, I need new brakes, or oh shoot, my tire, blew on the freeway and I got to buy a new tire. It's those things where you would pull out your credit card if you didn't have it on hand. And then once again, we're putting more money on a credit card. We're increasing the balance, which increases your monthly payment, and it can be very discouraging. So that $1,000 helps you to not do that. Once again, it's not a 100% problem solver, but it is a good buffer. It's a great buffer. So I do recommend this one. Now, if you are someone where you are not making a large amount of money, you are making $50,000 or less or something of that nature, instead of $1,000, start with 500. Start with where you are and what you can do. Now, if something comes up, you may have to supplement with that. Just, keep that in mind. But it is better to have it than not. All right, y'all. That is the episode for today. We are going to get into numbers 7 through 13 on the next episode. And yeah, we're going to talk about that good debt snowball. We're going to talk about sinking funds and what those are and why they are super important, and some other things as well. Like I said, Dave Ramsey, so far, this particular episode, his advice over the last 20 plus years has pretty much stood the test of time, I have to admit. And so I'm looking forward to hearing from you all. Which one of these resonated with you? Give me some info, give me some feedback in the comments. Which one have you practiced? Which one, if you haven't, are you looking forward to doing or to implement so that you can start your journey as well? And I look forward to reading your comments and engaging with you in the comments. If you haven't signed up to subscribe to God Can I Hold a Dollar, I'm doing a challenge for July. My challenge is to get at least 100 listeners. That would be definitely, the folks that follow the Reset channel on Instagram and Facebook. If everybody went over there from Instagram and Facebook and subscribe to God Can I Hold a Dollar on wherever you love podcasts, that would get us there. That would be an amazing start. So please share with a friend, pass it on. If we went to school together, whatever the case may be, share and subscribe just on the strength of knowing your girl and trying to spread this good out here that we don't always get a chance to hear. All right. God bless y'all. Have an amazing week, and I will see you next week.